Hey everybody, Jason Holland with Cashion Fishing Rods. This is the latest edition of the Cashion Chronicle with Mr. Jamie the Hammer Hartman. We are going to recap the tournament that happened last week on Chick and get his perspective of what happened, what was going on with the lake, and just kind of give us some details and then just kind of give us an overview of the tournament. So first and foremost, Mr. Hartman, good to see you. Thanks for taking the time to be with us.
You betcha.
Yeah, and it's always a pleasure to spend some time with you and get caught up and figure out how bad I really am at this game personally at fishing when I talk to you and all the minute details, and I'm over here trying to tie on a plastic worm. But hey, you know what? That's what everybody wants to hear. They want to hear from the pro. They want to hear from me anyway. So it'll work out well. So
yeah, it's not a kayak show.
Nah. For some reason, there's this constant banter back and forth. Somehow, Jamie thinks that I fish out of a kayak, which is nothing wrong with fishing out of a kayak. Let me go ahead and say that right now. But I do. I'm not very good, but I'm not terrible. Right, Jamie?
You got no.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you. I was fishing for a help here, but
you're not terrible. No, I wouldn't. You have avoided over the last 3 years not to pop your raft with your own jig. So,
well,
saying something.
Chalk that up to very careful fishing and being very safe and not getting in any bushes or getting deep. I don't have a raft either. For anybody that's watching this, I have it's a very nice boat. It's a glass boat, and I not great, but I'm not horrible. So
yeah,
glad we could get that out there. Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for a great way to start off this segment of the Cashion Chronicle.
All right, man. I got to make it on you because the joke is on me at Chick. So,
well, let's talk about that. Tell me, kind of, what we're doing. What did you see happen at the lake? And I know the weather was a massive factor in that whole deal. So, give us a rundown and a breakdown.
Yeah. We had crazy weather again. I mean, just seems like we're running into it. We had it was cold in practice. We had some rain. We had storms come in. I mean, we seen snow, we seen rain, we seen wind. Then we had post front condition, bluebird skies. It was like we had it all. And some of the guys that did well, and you see the big flip flops in the weights and whatnot. So a couple guys were able to be semi consistent with it. The winner was very consistent. But if you look at the rest of the board, it's kind of an up and down deal. Like the guys that did bad on day one were somehow able to go out on day two and flip flop it and do, if they caught 11, 12 pounds on day one, they were able to catch 15, 16, 17, 18 pounds the next day. And the guys that were on top that caught 20 pounds caught like one fish the next day. And you've seen that if you look at them weights, just day one, day two, it was crazy how the board went up and down. And I was just on that outside spectrum of it where, I had 13 something and 11 something, almost 12 pounds. And I was just out of the cut. So, but it changed so much. That wind was just absurd. And unfortunately, I was able to find them on the main river, just off the main river bars. I had located some grass, and I pretty well had the area. Well, two of the areas to myself. One of them, there was a bunch of guys around. Not a bunch, but I'd say a handful. But we got pounded with the wind. Nobody out of that area really did well. But that day too, I had so many fish that I was around because they would bump my bait, they would push it, they would knock slack in my line, they'd get hooked up for a second or two and come off. They just wouldn't commit to the bait. It's like they wanted to react to it, but they didn't want to commit to it. So it was extremely, extremely frustrating. Hours and hours and hours between bites, between hookups and putting the fish in the live well. And that's just the way it went. I had one little backup deal where I could go back into one of these creeks that I had found a school of fish. The first 10 minutes of my practice, I don't even think it was 10 minutes. It was 5 minutes after I launched the boat. I rolled around one point. I seen them all on my forward facing sonar and went like 4 for 4 with a jerk bait. They just weren't
Wow.
big though. They were just, out of 4 fish, I caught one keeper, and I said, okay, well, there must be a few keepers in this bunch. That saved my butt on day one. It saved my butt on day two. But they were just keepers, and I mean 15 and a quarter to 16-inch fish, skinny. They didn't weigh nothing. They weren't like I found the mother lode. They were just enough to get my keepers. And I had 2 fish at 10 of 3 on day two, and then I rolled back in there because I knew if I didn't get me another good bite, I was not going to make the cut. But I had to fill out my limit to keep my points, and I rolled back in there, and I mean I caught 7 of them pretty quick, and by then it was time to go. So biggest fish was like 1.75 pounds out of it. That's it, man. And there's not much to the story besides a lot of frustration. And I
Yeah.
was not happy to be on the outside of that cut because I thought I could do what I did the first day again, but it just didn't happen.
Yeah, and on those offshore bars, was that you say it was grass? Was that just fishing in the grass, over the grass, ticking the grass?
Yeah,
Or what
I
what
tried
did
it
that look
all.
like?
I tried. It was some of it was stubble grass, and then some of it was at least a foot to a foot and a half high. Some of the high spots in it. So I would tick it. I'd try it that way. I would throw something real light into it and drag it. Day one, it worked when it was calm, and that calmness didn't last very long. When that wind started, that bite was over. But they were
Right.
pounding it before that, before the wind kicked up. And I would also yo-yo a trap, get it hung in the grass, and kind of just crack it out of it and just reel up the
Right.
slack as quick as you could, crack it out of the grass, just trying to grass and get a reaction bite. I did catch 2 good fish, one on day one doing it, but just not enough of them. They would knock the crap out of it sometimes, and you just wonder how they don't get hooked. You'd snap it out of the grass, and your line would jump. I mean, you'd feel it in your wrist, and there's just nothing there. So
Yeah,
it
it's
was very,
amazing.
very frustrating.
Yeah, it's
Knowing I was
incredible how they
around that
can.
fish, and I just couldn't get them hooked up.
Yeah. Well, I said it's incredible to see how they can hit it that hard, knock that much slack, and they still not get hooked. And then,
Yeah,
me and my inflatable, I just get anywhere close to that treble hook to my inflatable, and I knock a hole in it. Apparently, now it's I'm based out of Nashville personally, and so I get to be on Chick quite a bit, and that lake is when it's hot, and when it's not, man, you better find something. And it's there is definitely a way to fish that lake. I have not figured it out personally. And the locals just man, they turn off and they turn on. And of course they do that everywhere, but for some reason it feels like Chick is even more so uh one little
yeah,
small switch. And I mean it's probably just the Florida strain piece of them. And but
yeah.
you know, Jason Christie, we talked about him a little bit, and looks like he was up in Hiwassee, getting dirt shallow and making it happen. So congratulations to him to
Yep,
pull
he
off another
figured it
win
out.
this year.
Somehow it
Yeah,
stayed stable enough for him to catch him shallow. Good for him. He's got confidence in that, and he's pretty well not going to do anything else anyway. So you put that in your head, and you just go do it every day. And if you get 5 bites a day and they're good, that's a thing. But I tried to put that in my head, but just trying to get them 5 in the boat was the hard part. I got plenty more than 5 bites a day. I just didn't get hookups.
yeah. Story of my life. So,
Frustrating.
where are we headed next? What's that looking like, and how do you prepare for the next tournament?
We are at Lake Fork. Oh man, it's over a month from now, so I got some time off. But it's at super low water levels right now, so it's going to be different. It's going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot of timber showing. Expect some lower units and some props and all that to be torn up like heck. That'll come into play with guys hitting stuff and not being able to make it back, I think. But at that time of year, it should be good. I think it's just going to be a different playing field. Guys trying to figure it out. All the stuff that we fished in the past, it's like 6.5 feet low. So, all the stuff that time of year that should be in play is going to be out of the water.
Yeah.
So it's going to make it a different playing field. So everybody else and myself have to kind of, figure it out and try to make the best judgment on what they're going to do.
You think it's going to be a slugfest like always, or is it going to be, do you think see those weights tighten up a little bit just because of the lowness of the water?
It'll still be a slugfest.
Yeah.
It's fork, and they're more condensed.
Yeah.
So when
Yeah,
you
so we
find
got
them, figure a pattern out. You're gonna do all right.
yeah. So what do you do, in preparation for a tournament like that? I know you got, like you said, 4 weeks off. I mean, obviously you'll have your practice times and your off limits times and take advantage of that. But, what do you do specifically? Or I don't want to try to get too much and you share the secret sauce, but, is there still at your point in the career and been doing it for so long, do you still do a lot of the stuff that guys like myself that haven't been doing it? Are you still doing the map study or the Google Earth and all those different pieces? Is that still part of how you prepare, or is it just you've done it so much and know those lakes so well that you do a different strategy?
Well, I guess my main preparation, having a month off is I just don't fish, and I go, I come up here to Northern Missouri and work on my deer lease.
Yeah, yeah, unplug. It makes sense.
It you got unplugged is right. Yeah, I love being in the woods, and just like I like being on the lake. But this time off is I'm gonna chill because I was pretty aggravated after Chick not being able to at least get in that top cut for the third day, and it kind of it made me a little upset. So we'll put it that way. So, I just took a little bit of time off. I come up here to Missouri, and I'm going to just mess around on the deer lease a little bit. And then I'll get back, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to try to adjust my C map on my graph and make it where it's showing me 6.5 feet low.
Right.
And I'll kind of be able to look at that lake. I don't like to do it too much ahead of time. Things that pop up and they just kind of they I don't know, you forget about stuff basically, especially at my age. So I'll do it as it gets closer. Bait wise will still pretty well be all the same, but just learning that lake, uh, where you can run, where you can't run, that kind of stuff. But I'll be able to look at the structure of the basically the bank, putting my graph at 6.5 feet low, showing me where water's not anymore and where water will be, and just kind of study it right from there. And I'll probably start that a week ahead of time before I even head out and have everything rigged and ready to go. But so I pretty well got a solid 3 weeks off that I'm just gonna mess around with.
Well, I think that's the part that you take individuals like myself that are not on the trail and doing that, and so I think sometimes we forget that hey, this is how you make your money. This is your career, and this is in essence your job. And so, as rest of us for our normal jobs, we'll turn around and take time off and reset and just kind of clear the cobwebs and get out of the grind. Fishermen have to do the same thing and have to just get away from that. Yeah, yes, it's still a passion. You still love to do it. It's still fishing, but when you do it as a career, it just takes on a different feel, a different meaning, and unplugging so you can come back in refreshed and sharp makes a lot of sense. So, last question,
Yeah,
and I want to take it too much of your time. I know you're up in the woods of Missouri and playing around with your deer lease, so I don't want to take all your time, but tell us a little bit about your setup for what you were using at Chick, rod wise. Obviously, that's what we're here talking about. But just your overall
yeah.
setup, and for guys that are watching this, maybe pick up some tips from that side as well.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll be honest with you. The rods that I had up, I run I did really well on a diving bait, a DT6 in practice, which is a light balsa weight crankbait. Everybody knows what that is, but I threw that on a square bill rod. Um, the Johnny Cruz square bell rod, 7-foot medium heavy, with 12-pound line, and that was working actually amazingly well in practice. Just burning that thing, I was getting a lot better hookups on it. But the problem was when that wind kicked up, you couldn't even cast it. You can't fish with the wind, the way the current was. They just won't bite it. So you got to kind of cast into the wind to get the fish to bite. I couldn't cast it. The wind was just so insane. So that went to the wayside. So I ran a trap mostly. And the trap, I actually ran the trap on a chatterbait rod. I really like that parabolic action on the chatterbait rod. So that's how I set up 2 different trap setups. One with 15-pound high seas fluorocarbon, and one with 20-pound for ripping it out of the grass. And the other one was for taking the top of the grass. Those were my 2 main setups. And then obviously my 7.3 medium heavy, my all around, was the deal for, dragging a plastic and flipping some of the lay downs and that kind of stuff. And the jerkbait fish obviously was on the Johnny Cruz square bill rod. Love to throw a jerkbait on. I just don't lose them on that thing. So all that was pretty well what I had rigged and ready and trying to catch them fish with was those there. But man, if you ain't tried the chatterbait rod with a rattle trap, I suggest giving it a shot and trying that. It works out pretty well. I know we got an RT rod, what I use in thick grass, because I locked the backbone of the RT rod, but it just wasn't thick grass. And the way I've seen them fish biting it in practice, I actually went back, re-rigged the 2 rods, and went to the chatterbait rod, and it seemed like it would load up for me real good. So that's why I went with that one.
Well, it makes sense. That RT rod, which obviously is for the rattle trap, it was designed for a place like a Gunnersville where it's a little bit thicker and you're having to really have that backbone to get that snap. And it makes a lot of sense with the chatterbait rod, being that it's that mod fast action, just loading up all the way through the blank and that lighter stuff. I have not tried that personally, but I note to myself that I will be trying that here very soon because it's just that time of year. So give it a shot. And you're right, that John Cruz square bill rod is probably one of the more versatile rods that he has in that lineup. So a lot of different applications. So, hey, always love that you spent some time with us. Appreciate that. I know you had a bunch going on, and love these recap videos. Love the fact that you feel comfortable enough to beat me down over my paddleboard, inflatable paddleboard fishing boat. So that's appreciate that. It always keeps me nice and grounded and humble. So, hey, enjoy. Yeah, exactly. Hey, enjoy the time off. Hopefully you get some well-needed break, and then we'll be obviously cheering you on for Lake Fork and following along. And as always, appreciate what you do for the sport, being a great ambassador for bass fishing in general. Obviously, what you guys consistently do for Cashion rods is always appreciated. So again, everybody, appreciate you tuning in to Mr. Jamie the Hammer Hartman. We will see you down the trail, and look forward to doing this again.
Yes, sir. We'll see you after 4.
Thanks, Jamie.
Take care.
All right, take care.